Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to talk about a new topic on my newly restored and electric converted Volkswagen bus. Now over the past summer, if you've been watching my channel, you know that I've been mainly prioritizing on fixing issues in the electric drivetrain and the wiring and the brakes and various things to make it more reliable in driving down the road. And I think I've accomplished that. Now I'm focusing more on the drivability or driving experience issues. In my last video, I upgraded the rear suspension with that MP sway bar to try to improve handling. Well, this video, I'm trying to solve another problem that's in my driving experience, which is the shifting. Now, this is the stock shifter that came with my bus that I did refurbish, and it looks really good. The problem is, after a few months of driving with it, I'm realizing now why a lot of people upgrade it or replace it. It's just not fun to drive with. So the purpose of this video is to upgrade this shifter in my bus with the famous USA-made Gene Berg shifter. And I'm going to show you some installation tips as well as give you a full review at the end so you could decide whether or not that's an upgrade that's appropriate for your bus. So stay tuned. Okay, so here we are in the car. Here's the stock shifter that I'm going to replace, and let me explain some of the reasons why I want to replace it. A common issue that everybody across the board has with these shifters is the fact that there's first gear way up here, second gear is way down here, third gear is here under. If you pull the parking brake out, you're under the parking brake, and then fourth gear is back here. So you have like this much travel between, the gears in some cases, and it's a little bit awkward when your arm you basically have to lean forward. I find myself constantly leaning forward when I'd rather just sit back in my chair. I know they make like 2-inch angled extensions that you could take the ball off and screw an angle extension on and have it come back here. So that would be better. I wouldn't have to pull my body forward, but still, you got that long travel for the shifting that's just rather annoying. Hopefully I have some help with that Gene Berg shifter with regard to the shifting travel. One of the unique problems I have with mine though is the reverse lockout doesn't seem to work. I've never gotten it to work. Now it may be because I just didn't do it right, and maybe I have some more adjustments in that lock plate that I need to make. But right now, if I just do this, that's in reverse. I don't have to push down at all. On my dashboard, notice there's this little R LED, which is just a tap off of my reverse lights. So that tells me it's in reverse positively. But I often have issues where I want to get in second gear because I never use first gear. I usually start out in second gear. And so that's second gear, that's reverse. Second gear, reverse. Second gear, reverse. Now you can see why that could be a little bit confusing while I'm driving, and it's a little bit stressful. So again, I'm hoping that lockout thing on the Gene Berg shifter would help me with that as well. So that's the reasons I'm replacing it. Now let's look at the new shifter. The new shifter is the GB 6750 from Gene Berg Enterprises, and it is the correct shifter for a left-hand drive, Volkswagen bus like mine. It lists for $315 at the time, plus shipping and tax, but that's not a bad deal for the quality of shifter that you get. Not only that, but unlike a lot of products that we buy for our cars, it came with a very detailed instruction sheet written in very good plain English, very detailed and very thorough, as well as it came with a few Italian candies. So you're not going to get that kind of service from your average aftermarket parts dealer. What I'm going to do is remove my current gear shifter, and then I'm going to go ahead and install the Gene Berg and give it a little bit of a review. Okay, so I got it installed, and I'll give you a couple of the finer points on the installation, but I'm not going to take you through the installation since these instructions are great. First off, I would say, just follow the instructions. I, obviously bolted it on there. One of the notes of the instructions solved my reverse lockout problem that I described. So let me just talk to you about that. What it says here is it says, if it does not pick up first and second, and you must push the button to move the handle more to the left, the shifter base needs to be moved toward the passenger side. the way you would do this is when you bolt it on, you bolt it down to where it doesn't move, but it's not tightened down, so you could take your little dead blow and move it a little bit with the hammer. That's what they suggest doing. First and second, if you have to push the button to move the handle to the left, shifter needs to go to the passenger side. But it says, should the shifter go into reverse without pushing the button, move it toward the driver's side. That's exactly the problem I was having. And now I'm able to shift into second gear without worrying about it being in reverse. In other words, I have to put the button in order to get into reverse. So my reverse lockout now is working. The second thing I had to do was I had to cut my mat. These molded mats have this little kind of donut-shaped round ring where the stock shifter sits in, and that won't work because of the shape of that base plate. But what you can do, and what you can see here I'm doing, is I took the lockout plate, the stock lockout plate, and I put it over that hole, and I traced it out, and I cut it out with a blade. And what's nice about this is there's a little bit of room between this spacer here where you can cut it pretty tight around, and then you can tuck a little bit of the excess. If you got like a 1/16 of an inch more, you could tuck that excess in there, and it looks really good and tight in there, and so you can't see the floor under the mat. So that was really it. The installation was simple. Now, after doing a few road trips, I'll give you a review. Okay, well, I just got done with a few test drives, and let me give you my thoughts on how I feel about this shifter. First off, does it live up to the hype? I think, yeah, it does. So there's the summary right there. It is so much better than the stock shifter. And again, it accomplished my three main problems. The first one being that my reverse shifter lockout wasn't working. Of course, I don't know if that was just the shifter helping with that, but certainly this shifter and the instructions made it easier for me to fix that problem. And so that is solved now, obviously. The second problem was I had to really reach for third gear. And now, as you can see, based on the height and the angle back of the shifter, I can shift right here in third gear, no problem, without ever having to reach for it like I was before. So no more back and forth in my seat while I'm shifting. That's solved. And then the other problem was that the shift travel was so long, that's part of it, but also long and sloppy, and it interfered with the parking brake. Well, that's solved too. As you can see, the parking brake is fully engaged, and I have about 2 inches of space between third and first gear and the parking brake. So there's no more issue with the parking brake interfering and having to shift into second in order to pull the parking brake out. It works perfectly now. So I'm very happy with it. I'm very happy with driving with it, and much more confident in how I shift. That's the review, and that's the installation. Hope you enjoyed the video. For more VW content, electric vehicle content, or even just home DIY content, please subscribe to my channel. And until the next time, I'll talk to you later.